What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Jeff Guy here, and in today's video we're doing a first look at week 6 DraftKings NFL DFS. If you like this content, make sure you subscribe, comment, follow, share, do all the things. Let me know that you like this content, and we'll get into week 6 right now. As always, we're going to take a look at the sportsbook lines, see which games are high totals and low totals, and we assume that the high total games are going to have a lot of ownership on them, and the low total games will have lower ownership. So then we decide, okay, is this game going up or down based on the total? And that's kind of where we try to find our edge when it comes to DFS. So taking a look at this Sunday slate, we have a bunch of games in this 42-43 range, so there could be some mix-up of ownership on those games. There's 2 down in the 4 o'clock window that we need to take a look at. So just be mindful whenever you're building your lineups that 2 of the high totaled games are in the 4 o'clock window this week. So you probably want to have some exposure to those games and know that if you have a lot of early game exposure, you might get caught in some of these games. So let's take a look quickly at the ones we want to highlight for the 1 o'clock slate. Bucks Steelers. The Steelers just got shredded by Josh Allen. I'm assuming Tom Brady's going to come out with a vengeance and do the same thing. Jets Packers has a really high total. I don't think either of these defenses are built to stop the other one. I'm obviously going to lean on this 7.5 from the Packers to try to build Aaron Rodgers stacks. I think he could be an absolute smash play this week. Lamar in a 43.5 total game might come in a little under-owned for what his upside can be. Probably getting Bateman back this week, so you could do a Lamar double with like a Saquon bring back and probably be very comfortable there. 49ers Falcons, I think this could be like a Jeff Wilson smash game. We got to take a look at his price, see where he is. Another great matchup for Jimmy G and the 49ers, who are just rolling right now. Bengals Saints, this one could be an absolute stinker in terms of defense, but you know, we'll see. I don't see a lot of fantasy points coming from that one. Miami versus the Dolphins is Miami versus the Dolphins. No, that's not a thing. Minnesota versus Miami is a game I want a lot of exposure to, especially if Tua is back from his concussion he suffered 2 weeks ago. Tua doubles with a Jefferson bring back is just mwah. Jags Colts is a game we're going to steer far away from. Probably Panthers Rams as well, although Cooper Kupp is always in play no matter what the point total is. I think that's the lowest one on the day. And then we have our big games. We have Cardinals Seahawks, 51 over under. 2 teams that cannot stop anybody and score a lot of points. This game is going to be incredibly highly owned, but probably not as highly owned as this Bills-Chiefs game. Good Lord. Last time these 2 teams played each other, it was a massive game. You remember it came down to the last second. Is Josh Allen going to get on the field? Is Patrick Mahomes getting on the field? Chiefs wound up winning. This game is just going to absolutely shoot out. The Bills secondary is so depleted. The Chiefs are going to take advantage of that. And then Josh Allen is Josh Allen. So that game is going to be huge. Let's go take a look at the DFS side of things and see if we can find some highly owned players that we can target in cash. Starting off at quarterback, it's going to be very difficult to pay down at this position this week, given how many high-priced, valuable options there are. Talking about Josh Allen, who has 30-point upside every single time he takes the field. Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Kyler, all have that same ceiling. Burrow and Brady, not as much, but I think Brady only came up 300 from his performance last week. He should be a smash play. Aaron Rodgers against the Jets is viable. Kirk Cousins is viable. And you get down here, like you can play some of these guys. Think about Geno Smith, how well he's been doing this year. Jimmy G has a really soft matchup. And then, like, depending on if Bailey Zappi's playing, you could potentially play him as well against Cleveland. Because, you know, why not? We aren't playing Bailey Zappi in cash, but we are going to play Patrick Mahomes. He just went absolutely nuclear on Monday night, throwing 4 passing touchdowns to Travis Kelce. That was just an amazing performance from them as they just throttled the Las Vegas Raiders. Even though it was a close game, it didn't really feel like they had a chance at all. Patrick Mahomes is a great option in cash. You can go to any of these guys. They're all viable. I'm just taking Mahomes in the spot. We're going to be playing a friend of the channel on our first running back spot. We're going to grab Jeff Wilson, who we've played in basically every single video we've done on this channel so far. 17, 18 carries the past couple weeks. Absolutely went like semi-nuclear at 23 points last week, 120 yards and a touchdown. Did have 2 targets in the passing game. Tevin Coleman stole a lot of work, which was a little frustrating. I don't think he's too cheap in this spot like he was last week, but I think he's fairly priced in a game where he's favored, where he should get a lot of work. Jeff Wilson is still a cash play this week. And the other guy we're going to play at our running back spot is someone you don't typically think of in a cash game, and that's Raheem Mostert. He is the Miami Dolphins starting running back, and with them expected to be in a pretty much shootout against Minnesota and getting Tua Tagovailoa back, Mostert's going to be in a good spot, and this whole game we want some exposure to. He's finally taken over this backfield from Chase Edmonds. I was high on Chase Edmonds in the offseason, but Mostert is here, and until he inevitably gets hurt, he is their starting running back. 5,700 is too cheap for a guy getting 15 to 18 attempts, 3 targets per game. Like, that's a lock in cash right now. So I'm taking Mostert, no questions asked. Now, this might be a controversial pick, but you can never avoid targets in cash. And Deontay Johnson gets a heck of a lot of targets. Even with Kenny Pickett coming into the fold for week 5, he got 13 targets, caught 5 of them for 60 yards. Not exactly a boom in the box score, but Deontay Johnson is never a bad idea in cash. And this is tied for the lowest price he's had all year. And given that he's coming down off a bad performance, the targets will be there. Not all of the ownership will be. I'm on Deontay Johnson for right now. Until a better option opens up, I don't see myself switching off of Deontay Johnson. Next up, we're going to grab 2 value receivers. The first one is going to be Alec Pierce. He had 9 targets, 6 targets, and 5 targets in his last 3 games, and has clearly become Matt Ryan's favorite target, even though Michael Pittman is still involved in this offense. In a game where there were only 21 points scored, he still managed to put up 16 fantasy points, and it was a great play in last night's Thursday night football game. He is too cheap at 4,300 and should be involved in this Jacksonville-Indianapolis game. I'm playing him there. And then we're also going to grab Rondale Moore, who's another guy who was hurt, came back in, and has started to get a lot of targets in this offense as the Cardinals try to use him more. He was their second-round receiver last year. They definitely want to get him involved. And since he's been come back from injury, he's gotten 5 and 8 targets at 4,200. He's simply too cheap now that he's healthy and playing and active. At tight end, there's actually a lot of options this week, and tight end's like the position no one ever wants to play. Kelsey and Andrews are both on the slate. So the 2 highest upside tight ends are here. They can play. They are viable for cash. Until another option opens up, I'm probably going to land on one of them too. Higbee is also always in play. 10 targets in his last game, 14. Like, no one else other than Andrews and Kelsey gets this kind of usage. So Higbee, you can play as well. And then the other guy I kind of want to talk about is Evan Ingram at 3,500, 10 targets last week. He's definitely more involved in the offense as Trevor Lawrence is building trust with him. We are not going to play 2 guys from this Jacksonville-Indianapolis game, so we are not going to play Evan Ingram here. I'm going to grab Kelsey. You don't have to stack in cash, but it does give us a nice stack of Mahomes and Kelsey in this lineup for cash, and it's definitely a differentiator from the field who may not be on the stacks this week. Now, this leaves us not all that much money left, but with an injury to Rashad Penny last week, Kenneth Walker is probably the best play on the slate this week in terms of potential rushing volume and potential involvement in the pass game. They did sign Tony Jones, and they have DJ Dallas who can come in and play the receiving role, but I firmly believe that Kenneth Walker is the best play on the slate at this point. 8 attempts last week, he broke a 69 yard touchdown and just looked the part as a back that was drafted in the 2nd round for the Seahawks to become their bell cow once Rashad Penny leaves. That time is already now, and I believe Kenneth Walker is the cash lock of the week. And then we're going to grab the Dolphins defense. They're usually good for a turnover. I don't see them coming in too highly owned, and they're probably the best cash option at the moment. Again, injuries, matchups, changes in salary is always going to change what we do on the defensive side, but we're going to go Dolphins for now. And that's the cash lineup. Let's go take a look at some tournaments and try to build some sexy Millie winners. The number 1 game to have exposure to this week is Buffalo, Kansas City. Everyone's going to want to play this game, and it probably is in your best interest to play it as well. At least have a mini stack, and if you have the cojones, you can fade it all together. This game should absolutely shoot out and should be a fantasy carnival in terms of potential and actual fantasy points. Right now, I'm looking at it like a Mahomes double stack with MVS and Kelsey, bringing it back with Diggs. There's also so many other options you can do here. Gabe Davis looks like a stud right now. You could pull Mecole Hardman, Shakir if Isaiah McKenzie is out another week. There's a ton of different options you can use. So don't be afraid to get, creative and get different. Because there's going to be so much ownership on this game, you might have to try something different or try something that's potentially cost restrictive. Something like this, where Josh Allen is the most expensive quarterback on the slate. Stephon Diggs is the third most expensive receiver, along with Gabe Davis, who at 6,500 isn't exactly cheap. And then you have Kelsey, who's the most expensive receiver. Only 3,800 remaining per player. And even if you play the cheapest defense, you still have to, find some value to make this happen. But this should be relatively contrarian in a very popular game. So I would recommend trying something along these lines for Buffalo versus Kansas City. Now, of course, the next game we need to talk about is Arizona at Seattle. This is going to be an incredibly popular game as well. And with Kenneth Murray probably being the most popular play on the slate, he is going to be in a lot of people's lineups. And for the stacks, I say the most popular way people are going to go about this is taking Kyler Murray, running it back with Kenneth Walker, and then double stacking Marquise Brown and Rondale Moore. Like, that just makes too much sense, right? Like, that's such a popular play. Everyone's going to be on it. And I don't think you have to get off of it. You just got to find a way to get different in that lineup if you're going to go this way. If you're going to stack the other side of this game, you could do a Geno double. This won someone $1 million a couple weeks ago. And then you could bring it back with James Conner if healthy, or Eno Benjamin if he's not. He was definitely involved and looked pretty spry. You could also grab Ertz or one of the receivers, Marquise, Rondale, AJ Green, or Dortch. All are viable. And the last game I want to talk about is Baltimore at the Giants. I think this one goes under-owned. There are a bunch of games in here, New York, Green Bay, Minnesota, Miami, that are going to pick up ownership and I'm going to want exposure to. But I think it's super important to focus on the contrarian plays. And with all the ownership going to Mahomes and Josh Allen and Kyler Murray, potentially Geno, I think Lamar Jackson comes in under-owned. So he should be a viable double stack candidate. Of course, you play Andrews, you play Jackson, you're already hurting for salary. Assuming Bateman doesn't play, which, he was, that is Bailey Gather. We do not want him. Assuming Bateman doesn't play this week, he might be able to come back. I'm going to say they err on the side of caution. You could definitely do a double stack with Lamar, Duvernay, and Andrews. Bring it back with Saquon Barkley on the other end. And I think that is another incredibly high upside stack that you could use in a tournament to potentially win and get leverage, especially if the Buffalo-Kansas City game fails or the Arizona-Seattle game fails. I hope you guys liked this video. Make sure you comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Woo!